The breaking point. The Galactic Coalition had always viewed humans as the newcomers, primitive, unpredictable, and barely worth acknowledging. For 30 years since first contact, humanity had been relegated to the Outer Rim territories, permitted only observer status in coalition meetings. Our technology was considered rudimentary, our methods unrefined, and our opinions unwelcome. That changed the day the Scourge attacked Nova Colony. Commander Ilara Chen stood on the observation deck of Arcturus Station, watching the emergency shuttles arrive. Each vessel carried survivors from Nova Colony, men, women, and children with haunted eyes and bandaged wounds. The Scourge attack had come without warning, a savage assault that left the colony in ruins and thousands dead. Commander. Admiral Hassan's voice pulled her attention away from the viewport. The Coalition Council is transmitting their response. Chen followed the Admiral to the command center where the holographic faces of the Coalition representatives hovered above the central table. High Counselor Vex of the Tellurian Empire spoke first, his elongated features arranged in what humans had learned was an expression of regret. The Coalition extends its condolences for your loss at Nova Colony, Vex said, his translator converting his harmonic language to English. However, we must deny your request for military assistance. The Scourge threat remains contained to your sector, and our treaty clearly states 20,000 dead. Chen interrupted, earning a sharp look from Admiral Hassan. Protocol demanded silence before the council, but Chen had never been good at protocol. 20,000 civilians murdered, and your response is to quote treaties. Vex's expression hardened. Commander Chen, your species' emotional reactions continue to demonstrate why you remain observers rather than full members. The Scourge have targeted 17 coalition worlds over the past decade. We have contained their aggression through strategic positioning of our defense fleets. You've abandoned the Outer Rim to save your core worlds, Chen replied. Nova Colony called for help 3 times before communications went dark. Where was your strategic positioning then? Another council member, the crystalline form of Ambassador Leth, spoke up. We understand your distress, but the Scourge vessels outclass your technology by centuries. Even our most advanced warships struggle against them. Your military vessels would be ineffective. The meeting concluded as Chen had expected, with platitudes, condolences, and no assistance. The Coalition had written off humanity as a lost cause. In the briefing room afterward, Admiral Hassan studied the star charts with a grim expression. They're right about one thing. The Scourge ships outclass everything in our fleet. If they push beyond Nova Colony toward Earth, then we need something that doesn't play by conventional rules, Chen said, pulling up the classified files on her tablet. Project Blackstar. Hassan's expression darkened. That's still in the theoretical stage. The drive system hasn't been fully tested, the weapons are experimental, and the whole configuration violates 6 laws of physics. It's also the only ship we have that might stand a chance, Chen replied. I've reviewed Dr. Lakshmi's research. The quantum displacement drive could give us the edge we need. Or tear the ship apart the moment you engage it, Hassan countered. Even if it works, what's your plan? Take on the entire Scourge Armada alone. Chen pulled up the intelligence reports from Nova Colony. The survivors described something interesting. The Scourge flagship, it's different from the others. Our analysis suggests it's a command vessel. Take it out, and we might disrupt their entire attack formation. The Admiral stared at her for a long moment. You realize this is a suicide mission. Only if we fail, Chen replied with a confidence she didn't entirely feel. 2 days later, Commander Chen stood in the massive underground facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, where the USS Blackstar had been under construction for the past 3 years. The ship was unlike any vessel humanity had built before, its sleek black hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Its unconventional design more reminiscent of a predatory sea creature than a traditional spacecraft. Dr. Amara Lakshmi, the brilliant physicist whose theories had made the Blackstar possible, led Chen through the final systems check. At 56, Lakshmi moved with the energy of someone half her age, her excitement visible as she explained the ship's capabilities. The quantum displacement drive doesn't just move through space, she explained, her hands gesturing animatedly. It temporarily shifts the ship partially outside normal spacetime, allowing for movements that would otherwise be impossible. In theory, this should make the Blackstar nearly impossible to track on conventional sensors. And the weapons systems? Chen asked, studying the bridge controls. Equally unconventional, Lakshmi replied with a hint of pride. Instead of standard energy weapons, we've developed what we call phase disruptors. They create localized distortions in the target's molecular structure. Essentially, they make matter forget how to be matter. Lieutenant Commander Jackson Wei, Chen's executive officer, looked skeptical. Has any of this actually been field tested? There hasn't exactly been time, Lakshmi admitted. We've run thousands of simulations, but we're going to be the test pilots, Wei finished. Chen moved to the center of the bridge, running her hand along the captain's chair. How soon can she be ready to launch? 72 hours for final calibrations, Lakshmi said. But Commander, you should know, the coalition representatives have been pressuring Earth government to shut down this project. They claim we're violating technological development treaties. Let me worry about the coalition, Chen replied. Just get this ship ready to fly. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparations, crew selections, and covert planning. The mission was classified at the highest levels. Officially, the Blackstar didn't exist, and the planned incursion into Scourge territory was never authorized. If they failed, Earth would disavow all knowledge of their actions to preserve the fragile relationship with the coalition. Chen handpicked her crew, not the highest-ranking officers available, but the ones she trusted to think outside conventional military doctrine. Engineers who could improvise repairs with whatever was available. Tactical officers who understood that sometimes the rulebook needed to be thrown out the window. Scientists who could analyze and adapt to new information in the heat of battle. On the night before launch, Chen found Wei in the ship's mess hall, studying the limited intelligence they had on Scourge vessels. Having second thoughts, she asked, sliding into the seat across from him. Wei looked up, his expression serious. Just trying to find a weakness. Their hull composition seems to adapt to energy weapons, their maneuverability exceeds our best fighters, and their weapons tear through our strongest shields like they're not even there. There's always a weakness, Chen said. We just haven't found it yet. And if there isn't? Chen considered the question. Then we make one. At dawn, the massive underwater doors opened, and the Blackstar rose from the depths of the Pacific Ocean, water cascading from its dark hull. For a brief moment, it hovered above the waves, its unconventional form catching the first rays of sunrise. Then, with a flash of energy that momentarily outshone the rising sun, the U.S. Blackstar engaged its quantum displacement drive and vanished from Earth's skies. The mission to save humanity had begun, with no guarantee of return. The reckoning. The journey to Scourge territory took 30 hours, a distance that would have required weeks for conventional starships. Inside the Blackstar, the crew worked in tense silence, each person acutely aware that they were venturing where no human vessel had survived before. In her private quarters, Commander Chen reviewed the final transmissions from Nova Colony. The images were harrowing. Massive Scourge vessels descending from the clouds, their organic-looking hulls bristling with weapons that reduced buildings to ash in seconds. The colonists had barely had time to reach emergency shelters before the bombardment began. A soft chime at her door interrupted her thoughts. Dr. Natalia Kuznetsov, the ship's science officer, entered with a data tablet in hand. Commander, I've been analyzing the sensor data from Nova Colony, and I found something interesting, she said, placing the tablet on Chen's desk. The Scourge ships emit a unique energy signature before they fire their main weapons, a brief surge in the gamma spectrum that our conventional sensors weren't designed to detect. Chen studied the readings. Could we use this to predict their attacks? Give us a few seconds of warning. Better than that, Kuznetsov replied, her eyes bright with discovery. I believe we could use the Blackstar's phase disruptors to target that specific energy frequency. If we time it correctly, we might be able to destabilize their weapon systems before they fire. For the first time since leaving Earth, Chen felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't much, but it was something. A potential advantage in what had seemed an impossible battle. The ship's AI announced their approach to Scourge space 6 hours later. Chen gathered her senior officers on the bridge, the tension palpable as the main view screen displayed the swirling nebula that marked Scourge territory. We'll drop out of quantum displacement at these coordinates, Chen said, indicating a point just outside the nebula. Passive sensors only. We need to locate the command ship without alerting their patrols. Lieutenant Mira Patel, the ship's tactical officer, spoke up. And once we find it, we hit it hard and fast, Chen replied. Dr. Kuznetsov has identified a potential weakness in their weapon systems. We'll coordinate our attack to exploit it, disable the command vessel, and extract before their fleet can respond. We gave her a skeptical look. That's optimistic. Optimism is all we've got, Chen countered. Any questions? There were none. Everyone understood the stakes. If they failed, Earth would be the next target, and the coalition would continue to stand idly by as another human world burned. The Blackstar emerged from quantum displacement at the edge of the nebula, its advanced stealth systems immediately engaging to mask their presence. For 3 tense hours, they drifted through the swirling cosmic gases, sensors carefully mapping Scourge patrol patterns and searching for the command vessel. Contact, Paddle reported suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper despite the fact that sound couldn't travel through space. Large vessel, approximately 3 kilometers in length. Energy signature matches the command ship description from Nova Colony. On the view screen, the massive Scourge vessel came into view, an enormous asymmetrical construct that seemed to pulse with internal energy. Around it, smaller vessels moved in precise formations, their organic-looking hulls gleaming with an unsettling iridescence. It's surrounded by at least 30 escort ships. Wei observed grimly. Even with our advantages, those are impossible odds. Chen studied the formation, noticing something unusual. The escort ships are maintaining a precise distance from the command vessel. Why? Kuznetsov ran a quick analysis of the sensor data. There's some kind of energy field emanating from the command ship. It extends exactly 500 meters in all directions. The escort ships never enter that perimeter. Is it a defensive measure? Chen asked. Some kind of shield? No, Kuznetsov replied, her expression shifting to one of surprise. It's actually the opposite. The field is highly unstable. My guess is that it's a byproduct of whatever powers their main weapons. The escort ships stay clear because it would damage them. Chen exchanged a look with Wei, a plan already forming. Then that's our way in. If we can survive that energy field long enough to get close, we might be able to target the source directly. The Blackstar's hull wasn't designed to withstand that kind of energy exposure, Chief Engineer Rashid warned. We might get 30 seconds before critical systems start failing. 30 seconds is all we need, Chen replied. Prepare the phase disruptors and plot a direct course for the command ship. We go in at maximum speed, fire everything we have at the power source, and get out before they can respond. The bridge fell silent as everyone contemplated the audacity, or perhaps the insanity, of the plan. Then, one by one, they returned to their stations, preparing for what might be their final mission. Quantum displacement drive ready, the navigator reported. Phase disruptors charged and locked on target, Patel confirmed. Chen took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the command console. Remember, no matter what happens here today, we're making a statement. Humanity will not be dismissed. We will not be abandoned. And we will not go quietly. She pressed the control. Execute. The Blackstar surged forward, engaging its quantum displacement drive for a microsecond jump that placed it directly within the energy field surrounding the Scourge command ship. Alarms immediately blared across the bridge as the ship's systems registered the intense energy battering their hull. Hull temperature rising rapidly, Rashid reported, his fingers flying across his console, rerouting emergency power to shields. On the view screen, the massive command ship loomed before them, its surface bristling with weapons that were beginning to orient toward the unexpected intruder. "They're powering up their main cannons," Huttl warned. Detecting the gamma surge, Dr. Kuznetsov identified. "Target that energy signature and fire all disruptors," Chen ordered. The Blackstar's experimental weapons activated, sending invisible waves of phase-disrupting energy directly into the heart of the Scourge vessel. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, abruptly, ripples of destructive energy began cascading across the command ship's hull. "Direct hit," Patil exclaimed. "Their power systems are destabilizing." The effects were more dramatic than anyone had anticipated. The energy field surrounding the command ship began to collapse inward, feeding back into the vessel's systems in a catastrophic chain reaction. Explosions blossomed across its surface as internal systems failed. "The escort ships are moving to intercept," Wei reported urgently. 20 seconds until they're in weapons range." Chen made a split-second decision. "Divert all remaining power to the quantum drive. Get us out of here." The Blackstar shuddered as its damaged systems struggled to comply. On the view screen, the Scourge command ship was coming apart, massive sections of its hull breaking away as internal explosions continued to tear through its structure. "Quantum drive engaged," the navigator announced as the stars on the view screen blurred into streaks of light. The last thing Chen saw before they jumped was the Scourge escort ships breaking formation, their movements suddenly erratic and uncoordinated, just as she had hoped. Without the command vessel to direct them, their fearsome coordination had dissolved into chaos. The journey back to Earth was a desperate race against time. The Blackstar systems had been severely damaged by the energy field, and emergency repairs could only do so much. By the time they reached Earth orbit, the ship was operating on minimal power, with half its systems offline. But the data they brought back changed everything. In the weeks that followed, Earth analysts pored over the sensor readings from the mission, developing new weapons and defenses based on the vulnerabilities the Blackstar had discovered. The Scourge attacks on human colonies ceased abruptly. Whether due to the loss of their command ship or simply to regroup, no one could be certain. More surprisingly, the Galactic Coalition requested a formal meeting with Earth's representatives. This time, Commander Chen stood not as a silent observer, but as an honored guest. High Counselor Vex addressed her directly, his tone notably different from their last encounter. "Commander Chen, the Coalition has reviewed the data from your mission against the Scourge command vessel. We must acknowledge that your unconventional approach achieved what our conventional forces could not." Chen maintained a diplomatic expression, though she couldn't entirely suppress a hint of satisfaction. "Humanity has always had to innovate to survive, Counselor. Sometimes the most effective solutions come from unexpected directions." "Indeed," Vex replied. "The Coalition has voted unanimously to offer Earth full membership status with immediate effect. Your perspective would be valuable in our ongoing conflict with the Scourge." Later, as Chen stood on the observation deck of Arcturus Station, watching Coalition engineers examining the damaged Blackstar with open admiration, Admiral Hassan joined her. "The quantum displacement drive is being integrated into our new defense fleet," he said. "The Coalition is actually asking for our technical specifications now. Funny how quickly things change." Chen nodded, her gaze fixed on the stars beyond the viewport. "They needed to see that we weren't just primitive newcomers to be tolerated. Sometimes you have to break the rules to earn respect." "And what happens when the Scourge return?" Hassan asked. "They will, you know. We destroyed one command ship, but their civilization spans dozens of systems." Chen turned to face him, a determined smile crossing her features. "Then we'll be ready. And next time, we won't be fighting alone." As if to emphasize her point, a coalition warship glided past the station window, its alien design now complemented by distinctly human modifications, proof that sometimes it takes an outsider's perspective to change the course of a war. The U.S. Blackstar's legacy would live on in a new generation of ships, and humanity's voice would finally be heard among the stars.
The silent messenger, the Nexus Prime station, hung like a jewel in the void, its crystalline structures catching the light of 3 distant suns. For over 1,000 years, this had been the heart of galactic civilization, where species from across the spiral arm gathered to trade, negotiate, and display their power. Today, something unprecedented was about to happen. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant Hope, watching the massive station grow larger through the viewports. Her ship looked tiny compared to the behemoths already docked. Massive Zephyrian dreadnoughts stretched 4 kilometers, their hulls bristling with weapons. The insectoid Kethva had brought their hive ships, each one housing millions of warriors. Even the peaceful Alathian merchants traveled in convoys of 100 vessels. And then there was humanity. 1 ship, 1 crew of 200 souls representing an entire species making their debut on the galactic stage. "Captain," said Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez from the communication station, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "We're receiving docking clearance. Bay 847. Sarah nodded, her dark eyes never leaving the view ahead. "Take us in, steady as she goes." The Defiant Hope was beautiful in its simplicity. Unlike the ornate vessels of other species, it was built with clean lines and practical design. Its hull was a deep blue-black that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No unnecessary decorations, no displays of wealth or power, just function and purpose. As they approached the docking bay, Sarah could see the other ship's crews, watching through observation decks. Some pointed and laughed. Others whispered among themselves. The humans had been isolated for 2 centuries, ever since first contact had gone badly. Now they were returning to a galaxy that had moved on without them. "Docking complete, Captain," announced Chief Engineer Maria Santos. "All systems stable." Sarah took a deep breath. "All right, people. Remember why we're here. Earth needs this trade agreement. Our colonies need resources. And the galaxy needs to know that humanity is ready to take its place among the stars." The airlock hissed open, and Sarah stepped into the station's grand corridor. The artificial gravity was lighter here, and the air carried the scent of ozone and exotic flowers. Beings of every shape and size moved through the vast space, creating a symphony of languages and cultures. At the center of the corridor stood Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. He was nearly 3 meters tall, with golden scales that caught the light and 4 arms that ended in clawed hands. His species had dominated this sector for millennia, and his presence here was both a greeting and a warning. "Captain Chen," Veltar's voice resonated through a translation device. "So humanity finally emerges from its little corner of space, and you bring ... 1 ship." His mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Sarah approached with measured steps, her uniform crisp and her expression calm. "Ambassador, 1 ship is all we needed." The corridor had gone quiet. Other species representatives had gathered to witness this first meeting. The Kethva Queen's emissary buzzed its wings nervously. The Alathian trade minister's tentacles writhed with curiosity. Even the energy beings of the Lumari collective had manifested physical forms to observe. "1 ship," Veltar repeated, his voice carrying across the space. "How ... quaint." The Zephyrian Empire brought a fleet of 300 vessels. They have their entire third hive. Even the merchants bring escorts. He leaned down toward Sarah, his golden eyes gleaming. What makes you think one small ship can represent humanity's interests here? Sarah met his gaze without flinching. Because we don't need to impress anyone with numbers, Ambassador. We prefer to let our actions speak for themselves. A ripple of whispers ran through the crowd. The smaller species appreciated the human's courage, even if they doubted her wisdom. The major powers found her response amusing at best, insulting at worst. Actions, Veltar mused. Yes, we remember human actions. The Proxima incident, the Mars rebellion, your species' tendency toward ... violence. His forearms spread wide. Perhaps it's better that you bring only one ship. Less chance of unfortunate accidents. The tension in the air was palpable. Sarah could feel the weight of every gaze upon her. This was the moment that would define humanity's return to galactic society. She could back down, apologize, try to smooth things over, or she could stand firm. The Proxima incident was a misunderstanding, Sarah said, her voice carrying clearly through the corridor. But if you're suggesting that humanity is somehow lesser because we choose diplomacy over displays of force, then you're welcome to test that assumption. Veltar's eyes narrowed. Are you threatening the Zephyrian Empire, Captain? I'm stating a fact. Humanity has spent 2 centuries in isolation, yes, but we haven't been idle. We've been watching, learning, preparing. You see one ship because one ship is all we need. The crowd murmured. Some laughed outright. The Kethva emissaries' wings buzzed faster. The Alathian trade minister's tentacles coiled tighter. But Sarah wasn't finished. You want to know what humanity learned during our isolation? We learned that the galaxy operates on a simple principle. Might makes right. The strong take what they want. The weak surrender what they have. It's an elegant system, really. Clean, efficient. She turned to address the wider crowd, her voice carrying to every corner of the corridor. But it has one flaw. It assumes that strength can only be measured in the number of ships in your fleet or the size of your weapons. Humanity has discovered that true strength comes from understanding, innovation, and the refusal to accept limitations. Veltar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of growing agitation. Pretty words, human. But words won't protect your colonies when the Empire decides to expand into your territory. The corridor fell silent. This was it. The moment everyone had been waiting for. The Zephyrian Empire had just announced their intention to claim human space, and they were doing it publicly, in front of the entire galaxy. Sarah turned back to Veltar, and for the first time, she smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Ambassador, I think there's been a misunderstanding. You seem to think that humanity's isolation was a sign of weakness, that we've been hiding because we're afraid. She stepped closer, close enough that the massive alien had to look down to meet her eyes. You're partially right. We have been afraid, but not of you. We've been afraid of what we might do if we came back too soon. We've been afraid of the galaxy's reaction when they learned what we've become. And what have you become? Veltar's voice was quieter now, uncertain. Sarah's smile widened. We've become everything you trained us to be. You wanted us to understand that might makes right. We understand perfectly. You wanted us to know that in this galaxy, the strong survive and the weak are consumed. Message received. She gestured toward the docking bay where the Defiant Hope waited. You see one ship because we only need one. Not because we're weak, but because we're efficient. Every human colony, every outpost, every research station has spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. We've been united by a single purpose: to ensure that when we returned to galactic society, we would never again be dismissed as primitives. The crowd was hanging on every word now. Even the energy beings had formed more solid manifestations to better observe the exchange. You want to expand into human space, Sarah continued. You're welcome to try, but understand this, that one ship represents the collective will of 47 human worlds. Every person, every resource, every innovation of the past 2 centuries has been focused on a single goal. We didn't come here to ask for permission to exist. We came here to inform you that we're done hiding. Veltar's 4 arms had dropped to his sides. The confidence in his posture had evaporated. You're bluffing. One ship against the might of the Empire, against the combined fleets of the galaxy. Impossible. Sarah's expression grew serious. Ambassador, has your intelligence service ever wondered why, in 2 centuries of isolation, not a single human ship has been captured? Why not? 1 human colony has fallen to pirates or raiders. Why, despite your best efforts, you've never been able to penetrate our space? The silence stretched. Veltar's golden eyes were wide with growing realization. It's because we've been practicing, Sarah said softly. Every attempted invasion, every probe, every lost ship that wandered into our territory became a lesson. We learned your tactics, your weaknesses, your limitations. And we adapted. She turned to address the crowd again. The galaxy taught us that survival requires strength, so we became strong. You taught us that respect must be earned through power, so we developed power beyond your comprehension. You showed us that in this universe, the prepared survive and the unprepared perish. Sarah paused, letting her words sink in. So we prepared. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice came through Sarah's CUM unit, calm and professional. Captain, we're detecting incoming ships. Zephyrian configuration. 300 vessels, approaching at standard cruising speed. Sarah nodded, unsurprised. She'd been expecting this. Time to intercept. 18 hours, Captain Valteres. Mandibles clicked rapidly. The fleet was already in motion before this conversation began. We came here to deliver an ultimatum, not to negotiate. I know, Sarah replied. Your intentions were never in doubt. The question is, are you prepared for the consequences? The massive alien drew himself to his full height, trying to regain his composure. 300 ships against 1. The consequences are obvious. Sarah's smile returned, cold and confident. Are they? Tell me, Ambassador, what do you know about human military doctrine? Enough. Primitive weapons, outdated tactics, emotional decision-making. Your species' inability to adapt to modern warfare is well documented. Documented from data that's 2 centuries old, Sarah pointed out. But you're right about one thing. We are emotional. We do make decisions based on feelings as much as logic. And right now, 47 human worlds are feeling very unified about one thing. We're done being underestimated. She turned toward the docking bay. The fleet will arrive in 18 hours. That gives us time to prepare. I suggest you use that time to consider whether the Zephyrian Empire is truly ready for what's coming. As she walked away, the crowd parted before her. The confidence in her stride, the certainty in her voice, had changed something fundamental in the corridor. The laughter had stopped. The whispers had taken on a different tone. Behind her, Veltar called out, "Captain, this is madness. One ship cannot stand against the might of the Empire." Sarah paused at the airlock to her ship. When she turned back, her expression was calm, almost serene. "Ambassador, you're about to discover that you've been asking the wrong question. The galaxy has been wondering why humanity sent only one ship. Tomorrow, you'll understand why one ship is all we need." The airlock sealed behind her, and the Defiant Hope began its preparations. In 18 hours, the galaxy would learn that humanity's long isolation had not been a retreat. It had been a transformation, and the species that emerged from the shadows would be nothing like the one that had retreated into them 2 centuries before. The message was clear. Even if the galaxy didn't understand it yet, humanity had returned, and they were ready to reclaim their place among the stars. The question wasn't whether they could survive what was coming. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for what they had become. The reckoning, the Zephyrian fleet emerged from hyperspace like a golden storm. 300 vessels of various sizes and configurations, their hulls gleaming with polished armor and bristling with weapons. Dreadnoughts the size of cities led the formation, followed by cruisers, destroyers, and countless fighter squadrons. It was a display of power that had brought entire civilizations to their knees, and opposing them was one human ship. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant Hope, watching the tactical display with calm attention. The dots representing enemy vessels filled the screen like stars in the night sky. Any rational person would have felt fear, despair, or at least concern. Sarah felt only a quiet satisfaction. "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station, "the Zephyrian fleet is taking standard battle formation. They're broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies." "Let them broadcast," Sarah replied. "Chief Santos, how are our systems?" "All systems optimal, Captain. The crew is ready." Sarah nodded. Her crew of 200 was calm and focused. They'd trained for this moment their entire lives. Every simulation, every drill, every exercise had prepared them for exactly this scenario. They weren't afraid because they knew something the galaxy didn't understand yet. "Captain," Communications Officer Lisa Park announced, "we're receiving a transmission from the Nexus Prime station. Ambassador Veltar is requesting permission to negotiate." Sarah's expression didn't change. "Patch him through." The main screen flickered, and Veltar's golden features appeared. Behind him, Sarah could see the crowded corridors of the station. Every species representative was watching, waiting to see how this confrontation would end. "Captain Chen," Veltar's voice carried a note of desperation. "This madness must stop. 300 ships against one. This isn't warfare, it's suicide. Surrender now, and the Empire will show mercy." Sarah studied the alien's face. The confidence from yesterday was gone, replaced by something she hadn't expected to see. Genuine concern. Not for the Empire, but for her and her crew. "Ambassador," she said quietly, "I appreciate your concern. But humanity didn't come this far to surrender at the first sign of opposition." The first sign, Veltar's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Captain, you're facing the entire Third Fleet of the Zephyrian Empire. This isn't opposition, it's annihilation, is it?" Sarah's voice remained calm. "Tell me, Ambassador, what do you know about Earth's history?" Veltar's expression showed confusion. "Your planet's history. What relevance does that have to this situation?" "Everything," Sarah replied. "You see, humans have a saying, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. The galaxy made the mistake of underestimating humanity once before. We learned from that experience. The question is, have you? On the tactical display, the Zephyrian fleet was moving into attack position. The flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Golden Fist, was positioning itself at the center of the formation. Its captain, Admiral Ketzer, was known throughout the galaxy for his tactical brilliance and ruthless efficiency. Captain, Tactical Officer James Wright reported, "The enemy fleet is charging weapons. They'll be in firing range in 90 seconds. Sarah nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Wright." Communications, open a channel to the Zephyrian flagship. The screen split, showing both Ambassador Veltar and a new figure. Admiral Ketzer was even more imposing than Veltar, with battle scars across his golden scales and eyes that held the cold calculation of a born warrior. Human Captain Kethzer's voice was like grinding stone. "I am Admiral Ketzer of the Imperial Third Fleet. You have 60 seconds to surrender your vessel and submit to Imperial authority. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your ship and the elimination of your crew." Sarah met his gaze steadily. "Admiral, I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Defiant Hope. Before we begin, I want to make sure you understand. What you're about to do, I understand perfectly. I'm about to crush a single primitive vessel that dared to challenge the might of the Empire. Are you?" Sarah's voice carried a note of genuine curiosity. "Tell me, Admiral, in all your years of service, have you ever faced a human ship in combat?" Kethzer's eyes narrowed. "Of course not. Your species has been hiding in isolation for 2 centuries. Exactly, so you're basing your tactics on data that's 200 years old. Data from a humanity that was just beginning to understand its place in the galaxy." Sarah's smile was cold. "But we're not those humans anymore." 30 seconds to firing range, Wright announced. Sarah turned to her crew. "All right, people. It's time to show the galaxy what we've learned. Chief Santos, bring us to full operational status." "Aye, Captain. All systems optimal. The ship is ready." Sarah looked back at the split screen. Veltar was watching with obvious anxiety, while Ketzer wore an expression of grim satisfaction. "Admiral," Sarah said quietly, "last chance. Turn your fleet around and leave human space. Continue with your current course, and you'll discover why the galaxy should have left us alone." Ketzer's laugh was like breaking glass. Empty threats from a doomed ship. All vessels, open fire. The Zephyrian fleet unleashed a barrage that would have reduced a moon to rubble. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and kinetic projectiles filled the void between the two forces. The combined firepower of 300 ships focused on a single target, and the Defiant Hope simply wasn't there anymore. "What?" Kethzer's voice cracked across the communication channel. "Where did they go?" On the tactical display, the human ship had vanished. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone. The Zephyrian weapons had struck empty space. "Admiral," one of his officers reported, "sensors show no debris, no energy signature. They've completely disappeared." Sarah's voice came from all around them, transmitted on every frequency simultaneously. "Lesson 1, Admiral, never assume. You understand your enemy's capabilities. The Defiant Hope reappeared, but not where it had been. It materialized directly in the center of the Zephyrian formation, surrounded by enemy vessels. Impossible, according to every known law of physics and military doctrine." "Impossible," Ketzer whispered. "No ship can teleport." "You're right," Sarah's voice replied. "No ship can teleport. But a ship equipped with dimensional phase technology can temporarily exist in parallel space. We call it shadow jumping. It's one of the innovations we developed during our isolation. The human ship fired once, a single pulse of energy that split into dozens of smaller beams, each one precisely targeted. In the space of 3 seconds, 50 Zephyrian vessels were disabled, their engines dead, their weapons offline. Not destroyed, but helpless. Lesson 2, Sarah continued. Precision is more valuable than raw power. We don't need to obliterate your fleet. We just need to stop it. Quetzal's voice was tight with shock. All vessels, retreat to defensive positions. Engage evasive maneuvers. But the Defiant Hope was already moving. It flowed through the Zephyrian formation like water, its shadow jump technology allowing it to phase in and out of normal space at will. Each time it appeared, more enemy ships found themselves disabled. This is impossible. Veltar breathed from the station. One ship cannot defeat an entire fleet, can't it? Sarah's voice was calm, almost conversational. Ambassador, you made a fundamental error in your calculations. You assumed that bigger is better, that more ships meant more power. But warfare isn't about quantity. It's about adaptation, innovation, and the will to survive. The human ship paused its assault, hanging motionless in the center of the chaos. Around it, disabled Zephyrian vessels drifted helplessly. Admiral Kuchizar, Sarah called out. You now have 237 ships left. Still confident in your victory, Quetzal's response was to order his remaining vessels to form a tighter defensive circle. All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel. Don't let it escape. The second barrage was even more intense than the first. The remaining Zephyrian ships poured everything they had into the space where the Defiant Hope hung suspended. Energy cascaded through the void like a man-made star. When the light faded, the human ship was still there, surrounded by a shimmering barrier of energy. Lesson 3, Sarah said. Defense is just as important as offense. This is a quantum barrier. Shield. It doesn't just deflect energy, it converts it into power for our systems. Thank you for recharging our weapons. The Defiant Hope's next attack was different. Instead of the precise, surgical strikes from before, it released a wave of energy that washed over the entire Zephyrian fleet. When it passed, every enemy ship found its targeting systems offline, its communications jammed, its sensors blind. You're fighting blind now, Sarah observed. No coordination, no tactical advantage. Just individual ships firing at shadows. Admiral Quetzal was breathing heavily, his golden scales dulled with stress. What do you want, human? Name your terms. I want you to understand something, Admiral. This isn't about territory or resources or political power. This is about respect. For 2 centuries, the galaxy has dismissed humanity as primitive, aggressive, and unworthy of consideration. Today, that changes. The Defiant Hope moved again, this time approaching the flagship directly. As it drew closer, the massive dreadnought's weapons swiveled to track it, but they wouldn't fire. The targeting systems were still offline. You want to know why humanity sent only 1 ship? Sarah continued. Because we didn't need more. Every human colony, every outpost, every research station contributed to this moment. We pooled our resources, our knowledge, our determination into a single project. 1 ship representing the unified will of an entire species. The human vessel positioned itself directly in front of the Golden Fist's bridge. Through the viewports, Admiral Quetzal could see the sleek, dark hull of the ship that had defeated his entire fleet. The Defiant Hope isn't just a ship, Sarah explained. It's a statement, a declaration that humanity has learned from its mistakes, adapted to the galaxy's rules, and emerged stronger than before. We don't need fleets of thousands. We don't need overwhelming numbers. We have something more valuable, the ability to evolve. On the station, the crowd of alien representatives watched in stunned silence. The impossible had happened. A single human ship had defeated the might of the Zephyrian Empire. Ambassador Veltar found his voice first. Captain Chen, what happens now? Sarah's image appeared on screens throughout the station and the fleet. Her expression was serious but not cruel. Now, the galaxy learns a new lesson. Humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist. We're not seeking approval or validation. We're simply informing you that we're here, we're staying, and we're ready to defend ourselves. She turned her attention to Admiral Quetzar. Admiral, you have a choice. You can acknowledge that humanity has earned its place in galactic society, or you can continue this conflict and discover what other innovations we've developed during our isolation. Quetzar's voice was barely above a whisper. What else have you built? Sarah's smile was enigmatic. Admiral, the Defiant Hope is our diplomatic vessel. It's designed for exploration, trade negotiations, and peaceful contact with other species. Would you like to see what our military vessels can do? The silence stretched across space. Finally, Admiral Quetzar spoke into his communicator. All vessels, stand down. Cease hostilities. A wise decision, Sarah replied. Your disabled ships will have their systems restored within the hour. Your crews are unharmed. Consider this a demonstration of human intentions. We could have destroyed your fleet, but we chose not to. We hope you'll remember that. The tactical display showed the Defiant Hope moving away from the Zephyrian formation. As it did, the disabled enemy vessels began to show signs of life. Systems came back online. Weapons powered up. Engines restarted. Captain Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, "We're receiving communications from 17 different species. They're all requesting formal diplomatic contact." Sarah nodded. "Forward their messages to Earth Command. They'll want to handle the diplomatic aspects of this situation." On the station, Ambassador Veltar was staring at the tactical display in wonder. "Captain Chen, I owe you an apology. The Empire greatly underestimated humanity." "Yes, you did," Sarah replied, "but that's understandable. We've been gone for 2 centuries. The galaxy moved on, developed its own assumptions about what we were and what we could become. Today, we've corrected those assumptions." She paused, looking out at the stars beyond the station. "The question now is, what kind of relationship does the galaxy want with humanity? We're prepared for cooperation, trade, and mutual respect. But we're also prepared for conflict, if that's what you choose." The message was clear. Humanity had returned to galactic society not as seeking acceptance, but as equals demanding respect. The single ship that had seemed so inadequate yesterday was now recognized for what it truly was, a symbol of human innovation, determination, and unity. As the Defiant Hope took up position near the station, its dark hull reflecting the light of distant stars, the galaxy began to understand that the question was never why humanity had sent only one ship. The question was why they had needed to send any ships at all. The answer was simple. They hadn't come to ask permission. They had come to announce that humanity was ready to reclaim its place among the stars. And if the galaxy wasn't ready for that, then the galaxy would have to adapt, because humanity had learned the most important lesson of all. In a universe where might makes right, the strongest weapon isn't the biggest gun or the largest fleet. It's the refusal to accept defeat, the ability to adapt and overcome, and the unity of purpose that can turn a single ship into an unstoppable force. The galaxy had wondered why humanity sent only one ship. Now they knew, because one ship was all they needed.